and these things came back with holes the size of fists punched through them. I mean, but they just kept on flying. Real slow moving plane, and I mean, takes a lot of hits, and they'd come back in and they'd start welding and cutting steel and putting it all back together again. And I mean, fiberglass pieces, and yeah, it was like it was really cool. We got to write stuff on bombs that were going into Baghdad. I mean, okay, chasing down like a trucker on the road. Looking back now, that's freaking stupid.
Welcome to How I Embraced the Suck, a podcast where you get to hear from veterans what life in the military is really like. I am your host, Walt, and before we start, you should know that I do not censor the show in any way. You have been warned.
All right. Yeah, I have no idea where we were at.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Usually as far as the editing, I just at some point jump in and start it and then introduce it and go from there. So
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I'm pretty excited. This is
Cool.
Looking forward to it. I'm always impressed or surprised, maybe is a better word, by the number of people that are willing to come on the show and talk about being in the military. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
much
Heck yeah.
appreciated.
So which way do we go now? Where do you want to do?
Wherever. Like it's really the flow is super guest directed. I just follow along. Normally I have some kind of funny intro, but
Go ahead. A lot of times, like when I'm doing, I'll talk to a guest. We'll talk for like an hour and a half, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I always go back and later, and I always do a separate intro, then kind of tie into the conversation. So
right.
And if there's the last one, which was with that candidate, basically I kind of threw out a couple his plugs early, straight on. That way, in case listeners stop at 10 minutes, they're not going to get, his, .org website or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I do. And I mean, it's, I don't know. That's just kind of the groove I've set into. So,
yeah. Well, yeah, speaking of intros, today we have Craig with us, who is a former Marine and currently has another former Marine living in his basement.
And I've got a couple former Army and Navy buried in the yard too. So
perfect. Keep them in their place.
That's right.
Show them who's the toughest.
Yeah. Now, I if I may, and I'm not trying to be facetious or anything like that, you're never a former Marine.
Fair enough. A no longer current Marine.
No longer active duty. Right.
Yeah. Yep. The cult power is strong.
Oh yeah. I still drink the Kool-Aid every day. Right. Oh my goodness. No, yeah. Yeah. Matter of fact, right now I'm actually doing people's taxes, and which actually, it's been tough with this stupid eye. But anyway, I just met a guy. He came in, and we were sitting there talking, and he was in the Marine Corps, and of course, there's like a 2-hour tax return for an easy 10 or just the basic 1040, no dependents and stuff, and. Yeah, we were talking about Marine Corps stories, and I mean, it was like, holy smokes. Different units, but same places and stuff like that. So a lot of simple correlations, and it was and you can always tell when jarheads get together because you tell a story, and then I'm going to tell one better. Then it's then you got to get one better on me, and vice versa, and then. then the booze comes out.
Yeah, and then the stories get bigger.
Right. Yeah, I've
Oh.
never met a jarhead that didn't lie about,
Right,
his
right.
his I was knee deep in blood and gore, and I was like, yeah. Yeah, I had 6 heads attached to my, 782 gear, and it's like, oh, you're really in the Marine Corps. Oh yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. Oh,
But yeah, that's one
wow.
thing too, is a lot of people will say they'll talk about being in the Marine Corps.
Mhm.
And the more you listen to them, it's like, really? Well, I don't remember anything like that. Then they'll try to embellish it even more, only come to find out they were never in the service, or in the Marine
Oh,
Corps,
sure.
that false now that still does kind of piss me off, like with people.
Stolen valor.
Yeah, stolen
Yeah.
valor. And
Sure.
yeah, I mean, if you're in, more power to you. If you didn't like it, I get it. I mean, and if you did something, awesome.
Mhm.
But if you didn't, 2/3, like typo never saw, anything.
Right. Yeah.
But no, I mean, if you didn't, 2/3 of every, of every fighting person, or for every one fighting person on the front line, you have 2 people in the rear supporting him.
Right, right.
So I mean, majority of the people out there are support,
Mhm.
except Marines. Everybody was on the front line.
Right, right.
It's like, come on.
Except typo.
Except typo. They barely let him out of the office.
Yeah. Good call.
Man. Yeah, he was in military intelligence.
Right, right, right.
And
Yeah, marine intelligence. What an oxymoron.
no doubt, right? It's like, really? We had that? Must be a new thing. Part of that new corps.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell him all the time. Him and Luke, I tell him, I said, you guys were in my corps, and they said it was already ruined when we got there.
Right,
So,
right.
it's like, damn it.
Yeah, so
yes.
you were in I mean, listener probably
Mm.
can't tell from your voice, but you've not recently gotten out. You got out a few years ago.
Oh yeah. Oh, just a few. Yeah, actually, I got out. Yeah, technically, my EAS was July 1st of 1991. So,
Okay.
and that what that basically means is I was at like 50 days terminal leave. So, so I was actually out of the Marine Corps. Oh boy, I don't even remember the actual date. I want to say like mid-April, late April.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, so technically you're still in, but they're like, well, there's nothing for you to do, so
Right.
you got leave. Okay.
Yeah, I took my leave and stayed in Hawaii for a little bit, and yeah, went through about $10,000 in about 2 weeks, and
I bet.
yeah, man, that was stupid. But
And that was $91. That was
yeah,
not...
those are $91, right? Yeah, well, I mean, okay, when you're like in certain operations, you don't get taxed on anything. You end up with combat pay, hazardous duty
Right.
pay.
Right.
So you make a lot of bank.
Mhm.
Plus if you're in country, you don't get to spend your money on anything, really. I mean, it's, you're
Right.
lucky to spend, well, over in the Gulf, you were lucky to spend 20, $25 a week,
Okay.
Now down in Panama,
Sure.
that was a different story. You could spend a little bit down there, but if you were like in garrison, but if you were out in the field or out doing patrols or anything like that, you couldn't do it. But yeah, oh man, it was like $20 for a night. You would go, you would get a bottle of rum, bottle of nitrate, a 2-liter bottle of Coke. We'd sit around the picnic table, get hammered, and then go into the NCO club, pick up some chicks, party all night, buy them a $2 chicken dinner, and, go find some place to hang out for a while. And yeah, that was 20 bucks a night,
Yeah.
rum
Yeah.
and Cokes inside the bar were 88 cents. That was a double rum and Coke. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Yeah. It was $88, $89 there. So it was great. That was a good time. I definitely want to go back to Panama sometime. See if I got any kids down there. So see if Typo has a brother or sister.
Yeah. So
Uh,
on the base in Iraq, what was where could you spend money?
they
Like in the
had okay.
PX
Now I was not in Iraq.
or
Okay,
in the Gulf? Excuse me.
in the
Yeah.
Gulf. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
actually in Saudi Arabia. We were there at Ras Al Ghar, Al Jabail, and then we did forward air refueling points like in Tanajib. Oh God, there was another one. Man, it wasn't very very big or very. Anyway, we would at Jabail or King Abdulaziz soccer stadium is what we basically took over and lived in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, they had like vendors come in
Oh,
towards
okay.
the tail end. I
Sure.
remember like KFC being there, but like Ahmed's little trinkets, and he'd had all kinds of stuff.
So you spent dollars, or did you have to change for local money
No,
or
you spent
script or something?
you spent dollars. They
Okay.
took
Okay.
heck yeah, they took U.S. money.
Yeah. Right.
Heck yeah. Uh
Hmm.
but yeah, it was a good time. You could go, like they had like this little mini PX type thing where you could get like cassette tapes. I remember.
What's that?
Yeah, no doubt. That was the cool stuff back then.
Yeah. Yep. Wear them out.
Yep. You could pick up a little thing called a book, and you could read that. And yeah, I mean, this is old school stuff, right?
Oh.
Yeah, one of the greatest things over there that I really did like was actually the mail system. I mean, you didn't have to we didn't have to pay anything for mail. Nothing.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sending it?
For sending out
Huh.
mail,
Yeah.
packages, nothing. You just dropped it off and they sent it back, and I mean that was great. And then another great thing about the Marine Corps mail system was that the incoming mail, okay, it was quick if it was addressed correctly. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I mean my grandmother sent me a roll of Copenhagen chew, and I got it, and the actual manufacturer's date was only 7 days old on it, so it was really fresh.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
you couldn't get this shit in Hawaii, let alone
Yeah.
yeah, and so it was really great. But if they didn't address it correctly, it went to a large pile outside, and anybody and everybody could go through it and just take whatever you wanted. I
Wow.
mean, yeah, somebody sent this army major a swimming pool. Okay, yeah, like a little kid a little
Wow.
kid's wading pool. So we took that. Yeah, and we used actually the liner on it as the topping for actually weatherproofing our bunker. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, sure.
yeah. So when it did rain, it rained hard,
Okay.
and so that actually kind of saved our bunker a little bit. Yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah.
The major doesn't need a pool. Come on.
Oh, I don't know. That was a waste of money for somebody.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that was back because I remember that was back when you could send a letter to any soldier, right?
Yes.
In
Yes.
in the first Gulf, you could
Yeah.
just say any soldier, like
Yep.
Iraq or something,
Yep.
and it would go to somebody.
Yep. Absolutely. We got a lot of mail from kids,
Mhm.
stuff like that, which was cool. And I mean, I ended up actually, me personally, I ended up getting a lot of mail because of the fact that me and a guy named actually were sitting down. We just came out doing field stuff, and there was a mess hall, and they were serving. I don't know. It was something hot. I wanted to say ribs, but I'm not sure that was right. Anyway, so that we go to sit down, and this good-looking girl, a reporter. Hey, do you mind if I sit down with you guys?
Oh.
No, please. Give me something a little later for the porta john. But yeah, no, she sat down talking to us, and we talked about everything. I mean, talked about my dad was ticked at me when I was in Hawaii. I, collect calls. Back then that was some serious money.
Mm,
And, I talked to, like all family members, and, my dad, it was like a $200 bill.
right.
So my dad he wasn't mad, but he was pissed that I
Yeah.
did this to his bill. Ended up having a girlfriend at the time actually dump me. And I knew better. I mean, I was in Hawaii, and, she was in Canada, believe it or not. And, but yeah, so she, we talked, hey, this isn't going anywhere, so,
Mhm.
yeah, we split, and, trying to think what else there was, just a lot of stupid little stories. And so anyway, so I started getting all this freak mail, I mean, Maryland, and, Massachusetts, and, Virginia. And I'm like, these chicks are like, oh, I feel so bad for you. If you come back, and, I'll take care of you, and this, and pictures. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Finally.
Oh, because you told the reporter those stories.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what she did is she turned all these stories around. Everything was around, are all twisted up. And it was, a sergeant, was, dumped by his girlfriend because he was over there fighting, in Saudi Arabia for, oil. And,
Right.
it's like, what? And, sergeant's father, is highly upset because he made a phone call from Saudi Arabia. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I mean, it went on and on and on. I mean, this whole sad sack story. And I mean, I was getting all kinds of mail, freak mail. And, so I made a point to at least try, a majority of them to try to write a little bit and say the stories you read in the Washington Post were wrong. It was all lies,
Sure.
And I think her name was Mandy Moore. If you, it's online. My brother looked it up. It's
Oh, okay.
online still.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was my first encounter really with corporate press, I guess. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Your foray into fame.
Yeah. Well, no, corporate. I mean, well, your corporate media. I mean,
Yeah.
they just
Sure.
took all these stupid stories and made them into this, like, poor military soldier over in the Gulf.
Right.
And at the time, I mean, I didn't realize that we were actually, fighting for oil. I thought we were there to liberate the Kuwaiti people, and, free them and stuff like that. And,
Sure.
years later, it's like, that was for oil.
Yeah.
We were there protecting the Saudi Arabians,
Mhm.
and I mean, we're still doing it to this day. 30 years later, we're still doing that. With like bombing Yemen, for example, or
Yeah.
blockading Yemen. That's a Saudi Arabian deal.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, we don't have anything to do with Yemen. But I'm sorry, I got off on a little tangent.
Tangents are what we do here.
I hear you. Okay.
Oh, so
Well,
you were in telecommunications, and then you did you said you did radio.
Down in Panama when we kidnapped
Okay.
Noriega. I was what was back then was a 2542, which was telecommunications. I specialized in high frequency communication systems, and even helped write a Marine Corps MCI book for the Marine Corps about this stuff. And but anyway, so they're like, hey, we need people to go down to Panama. I'm like, heck yeah, I'll go down there, get me some blood and guts. And so I'll go down to Panama, and down there I worked mainly as radio. I didn't even work telecommunications. I worked 100% radio. So I picked up OJT. I picked up the radio, radio operator, which was 2531. And then actually before Panama, I had actually went to comm NCO school and learned wireman stuff. So I picked up the wireman as well.
Okay.
And so I had all three MOSs, and then I went, I didn't go to school for 2549, which was like a comm center chief. I didn't go to school for that, but that's what I did over in the Gulf. We were so
Sure.
understaffed or undermanned. I mean, I was,
Hmm.
I had a lieutenant, and then I had well, he promoted to captain. Yeah, I had a captain, a lieutenant, and that was it. Until they brought at the tail end, they brought in a few staff sergeants. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was a mess.
What's the difference between telecom and radio? Telecom's high frequency, you said?
Well, no, telecommunication is more what we do on the internet today. This was
Okay.
before well before what Bill or Al Gore invented the internet.
Right.
Well before that, right?
Bless
I
him.
mean, yeah, yeah. And so basically, like if you wanted to send a written message, you would have to take it to the comm center. We would have to type it up. We would have to actually put it into different types of communication systems, and it was all encrypted. So yeah,
Okay. Okay. But
yeah.
distinct from radio. As far as your application, anyways.
As far as the telecommunicators application,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
separate, but we can't talk without radio. So there were a lot of
Sure.
times that we had to, use a 95 band, which was the radio transmitters and stuff like that. And so we actually paired up with radio operators and stuff like that. So it's
Okay.
kind of odd. We did satellite communication, which was back then was brand new. We could actually talk through a satellite. There was a piece of equipment. I was talking to some younger guys, and I was like, "Man, I remember a Prick 104." And I said that was like brand new, and you had to spread out this little tiny satellite antenna, key the handset, and they're like, "We don't use that anymore." It's like,
Right.
"Oh, okay, all right, fine." Yeah, bastards. Ugh.
Uh,
Yeah,
we got
packing
the
around.
fancy stuff.
Yeah, packing around a Prick 77 on your back, and with the batteries. I mean, the batteries weighed a ton. And it just that's what you carried. Now it's a little cell phone, and hey, how you doing?
Right. Right.
Jesus.
Huh.
So yeah. Anyway, yeah, radio. Yeah, we always use radio and wire. I
Okay.
guess so. But
So that's what
yeah.
you're doing in both Panama and the Gulf. You were saying.
Yeah, Panama is basically radio operator
Okay.
and a little bit wireman. And I used to do patrols with a thing called scamp platoons and stay platoons. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
they still have those anymore. Scamp basically would set up like little sensors, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, and out in the middle of the jungle and around the Panamanian Denny stations and stuff like that. We'd go out with them. We'd be another M16 for them, and then we would actually provide communications for them. They would go out and set
Okay.
up their little spy sensors and stuff like that, and we'd radio in locations and stuff like that. They'd map everything out, and then
Gotcha.
yeah, stay platoons. Well, we just basically went along with them. They didn't really need us only for like communications back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see, and then yeah, we did patrols and stuff like that. That was really really fun. I really enjoyed down in Panama. I mean, it was hot.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
we actually got to do Marine Corps stuff. I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, this is what the Corps is about. The Gulf, we get over. I get back from Panama, and I was like, oh hey man, you got orders to Hawaii. I'm like, oh, I love the Marine Corps. I'm all running around, hoorah, Semper Fi, yeah, I got Hawaii. Yeah, I get to Hawaii, and I mean, I wasn't even there 6 months before, we had to leave and go over to the Gulf and hang out there. And I mean, basically, we were so rear echelon, it wasn't even funny. I mean, we just provided communications for an air wing. We did move up north. We really, our unit broke apart actually. And we had people that were working with the MPs. We had people working with like engineers, CBs, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we provided communications for the air groups, Marine Wing, which was really kind of cool. I got to see like OV-10s and Harriers, and man, those things.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, a Harrier, if it takes a good hit, goes off balance. and if it's in this
Mm,
hover
hover mode.
mode,
Yeah.
it'll flip. They're
Oh,
done.
really?
Yeah, yeah. OV-10, I think that's what it was. OV-10 was a flying tank, and these things came back with holes the size of fist
Oh,
punched through
wow.
them. Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, but they just kept on flying.
Wow.
Real slow moving plane, and I mean, takes a lot of hits, and they'd come back in and they'd start welding and cutting steel and putting it all back together again, and I mean
Wow.
fiberglass pieces, and yeah, it was like it was really cool. We got to write stuff on bombs that were going into Baghdad.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah,
yeah, oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Just stupid shit, like yeah, fuck you, Saddam, and all that, and uh, yeah, little did we know, right? That
Yeah.
poor
Yeah.
bastard. He's like, "What did I do to these people?"
Yeah,
And- and- yeah, go ahead.
well, it's interesting that, I mean, just the modern war, you're so rear echelon that you almost, to a certain extent, I'm sure you almost felt like you're not at war, but then also you're riding on bombs
Yeah,
that are getting dropped.
right,
So the modern warfare can shorten those distances
right,
that much. That's kind of crazy.
right. Well, I mean, and I mean, yeah, we were rear echelon, but I mean, at night, I mean, we were at night. You could hear the bombs, and it just
Mm.
it did sound like distant thunder,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, and now when I hear thunder, it kind of, it's like, oh, it kind of
Sure.
takes you back a little bit, but
Yep.
I can sleep really good. It's like, oh yeah, time to go to bed.
Yep. Yep.
um, but yeah, it was like I said, we were our unit was really split up. We were, MWCS 18 Detachment Alpha anyway, and then they broke us apart even more. So some guys went and dealt with the Iraqi prisoners, and some guys dealt with like building of forward air refueling points for the
Mm.
Harriers, and
Sure.
so there were a lot of different stuff. I mean, yeah, and I claim Remph on that big time, because we weren't actively engaged,
Sure. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, and yeah, like you said, man, right, hanging out and doing our message traffic and stuff, and then but yet turn around the next day and go write "Hi Saddam" on the tip of a bomb,
Right.
and these things were massive, dude.
Right.
Oh my god, I don't. Yeah, yeah, we killed a lot of kids over there, so yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, we did. We actually, our unit was actually in charge of the air tasking orders, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, so when I say we killed a lot of kids, we really did,
Mm.
Yeah, we sent the pilots to, the bombers and the Harrier jet pilots and F-16s and whatever else they had.
Sure.
That's we gave them the orders to go blow this up or go do that.
Sure.
There was one time they did have Saddam Hussein in sights for
Mm-hmm.
one of the Harriers had him, and they said no,
Hmm.
leave him. Yeah, do not engage. And it was like, that's odd. They were the bath party, I think.
Okay.
We were about, yeah, I guess it was pretty much over, and the bath party was supposed to be taking out Saddam Hussein, which they didn't. They kind of
Sure. So in the whole nation building concept, they wanted the Bath to be able to do it
right,
for popular support and all that.
right.
Okay. Sure.
So, but they didn't. So that's why they had to go back and go do it over again.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Sorry about that. There we go. But yeah, it was we had some good times. Now the messed up part about our unit over there is we've lost a lot. A lot of people out of that unit from coming back.
Mm.
Yeah. So I know there's I know of a couple, or well, several, I guess, that actually, yeah, I had one of the guys' wives actually contact me, and
Hmm.
she said, hey, he lost his battle with the demons, and uh, he's dead, basically. Can you write a letter for his funeral? You know,
Hmm.
and I'm
Wow.
like, that blew me away. I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you say? You know,
Right.
you know, well, that was rough. That was rough. And then of course, my best friend over there, I can't find him anymore. So I'm assuming
Hmm.
I assume he's one that just basically said, heck with it and gave it up, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
That.
the Gulf was really a twisted place. I mean, as far as all that goes, and
Mm-hmm.
coming back, everybody's like, yeah, yeah,
Right. Right.
you know, and and then, but then years later, you kind of realize, you know, this was wrong. This
Hmm.
was we shouldn't have been over there, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, but I mean, Iraq was just going back into Kuwait and taking it back because they actually owned it at one time. That was
Mm.
Iraq country.
Mm-hmm.
After World War II, they decided, hey, this is going to be your own country. And I guess Saddam says, no, I'm going to bring everybody back together. And I think that scared a lot of people
Mm.
because
Okay.
how quickly I don't remember. I mean, there was, of course, I mean, there's always atrocities and there's always stuff going on,
Sure. Yeah.
when no matter who goes in,
Yeah.
and but I don't really remember anything. I mean, there were some things, but I mean, it wasn't that bad in Kuwait. I mean, it wasn't like an oh my god, they've just they didn't walk in and find all these concentration camps.
Mm-hmm.
People were still running around doing whatever.
Right.
I mean, it
Right.
wasn't. So I don't know if Iraq went in or Saddam's troops went in, and then they took over the country with very little resistance anyway. And I mean, it's just basically like Russia and Ukraine, or Russia and uh, a lot of Poland. With
Mm-hmm.
the Nazis when they went in, they
Yeah.
had zero resistance because they didn't really. It's like, okay, we got you.
Mm.
They
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize, what kind of bastard Hitler was at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and some of Hitler's people.
Right.
So there
Right.
was, they were like, fine, we'll be Germans now. That's cool. We're all Slavs, right? And now that's like with Russia and Ukraine. A lot of Ukrainians actually consider themselves Russian. So if
Mm.
Russia goes in, it's going to cause problems, but not for the people there because they think they're already Russian. They
Mm.
were at
Sure.
one time Russia.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry, another tangent.
Yeah. I was. Yeah. No. I was just reading a book about. It was basically about. It was written by a guy during World War I in Russia, and he was talking about the Ukraine and the Don, DON, and
Oh,
just
uh huh,
the, and it was like he was talking about different states, and it was just a different mindset. Whereas now, like Ukraine is a country,
right.
and then it was like I don't know exactly, but from the way he was talking, it gave the impression that he considered it to just be a state of Russia,
Oh
and every
wow.
or a. There we go. And now I'm sounding dumb,
No, yeah, I hear
but I
you.
don't edit these out because I want the listener to know how
Right.
easy it is to sound dumb. But anyways, that little anecdote, just that it was interesting to hear it called the Ukraine.
The Ukraine, yeah.
Yeah, as just a different title for it.
Well,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, it would be like us, the United States, talking about Alaska. I mean, we don't
Mm,
call it the Alaska.
sure.
I mean, it's really not connected to us, but we own it, and
Hmm.
or now even Canada saying, yeah, better watch those guys because they're getting tough. Um, they could say, you know what, we're going to take Alaska back.
Right. Right.
Yeah, right. And of course, Biden had let him because he's that way. But okay, don't bring
Yeah,
your trucks.
it was interesting. You're talking about the guys who have come back and um, have lost the battle. It's I think it's easy to understand how a guy could be over there being a trigger puller and then
Right.
come back and struggle with stuff. But a lot of people don't realize that it's just as common among rear echelon guys, or
Yeah.
even guys who haven't deployed. I think I heard somebody say that, or I did hear somebody say that, at least currently, maybe not amongst like Vietnam era vets, but among current vets, there's almost no statistical difference based on deployment or not.
Well,
The
that makes a
suicide
lot of
rate,
sense. Yeah.
I think they said there's a slight bump around your second deployment. There's a slight statistical increase around someone's second deployment. But yeah, you can join up and be stateside for 4 years, and the suicide rate is about the same as somebody who deployed and was over there. So
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, because you do okay, like okay, I got back from the Gulf, and then of course, 10 years later we had 9/11 happen, and I actually felt, personally felt guilty because apparently we didn't do enough, and of course, it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't even Iraq that did it, but that's what we were told. And,
Sure.
I mean, it was, and at the time, it's like I felt really guilty because we had to send kids, that, were 10 years younger than me and had to go in. And, of course, then that, led over into Afghanistan. And, it's just, it is guilty, a guilty feeling. I mean, like to bastardize psychology, I guess, like a survivor's guilt. Okay.
Sure.
But it's kind of like that, I guess. But I mean, it's it's like, man, we didn't do enough, kind of, we let these people down, that type of thing. I can see like rear echelon, REMPs, like, and, people that never even left country having those types of feelings, like I didn't even get a chance to go over there and we let them down. And
sure. I didn't even do my part. I just
right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's interesting. That's an interesting statistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never even would have thought of that, but yeah, it makes a lot of sense, hearing it. Do you, to circle back, do you remember that, the book title?
Always with Honor.
Always with Honor. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to check that out.
By a Russian general. I forget.
Oh,
his
wow.
name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oops.
Pretty interesting.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that really does sound. And oh man, who was I? I was just talking. Maybe the typo we were talking about, even World War II Russia. How their like battle plan was. It took 3 guys to fire 1 rifle. One guy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. where they hand out 1 rifle per guy.
Yep.
And then, or per 3 guys, and then
per
when the
3
guy
guys.
with the rifle died,
Yep.
Pick it up. Yeah.
Yep. Well, you'd had the first guy because they knew he was going to get killed. He had the rifle, and the second guy had ammo. So they figured by the time that he got the rifle, got it loaded, he would get killed, and then the third guy could actually pick up the rifle and shoot it, a few times, before he got killed. Because apparently they were just like literally mowing each other down. I mean, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, it's different battles from nowadays. I mean, you read about, I don't know, say Pickett's Charge, Civil War,
right?
Or like
right.
you're saying, the Russians in World War II, or the Battle of Kursk,
yep.
Or whatever. And then now we don't really have those set piece type battles anymore. It's
right.
It's really different.
Yeah. 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 Well, yeah. Oh my God. I do Civil War. I mean, that's brutal, even Revolutionary War, where they lined up.
Right.
And,
right.
it was like, okay, we're going to line up and we're going to throw lead at each other.
Right.
It's like, holy smokes. Yeah. And the U.S. was actually accused of, or America was accused of being, terrorist and guerrilla warfares. And I mean, because they actually didn't, a lot of the what was that?
Some of the units. Yeah.
Yeah. Would actually go into the woods and hide and stuff like that. And
yeah.
Very dishonorable.
Right. Right. They would, they'd hide in trees and shoot at the officers or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Good old US.
Yeah. Huh.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Different times.
yeah. And now I do.
Well, then,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, when you were in the Gulf,
Mhm.
I'm not quite the history buff I should be. There weren't really any of those type of set piece battles then, were there? Did the Republican Guard put up a front, a resistance at all, or
No, not. I mean,
maybe token?
there was some, but I mean, nothing
Hmm.
really even to talk about. I mean, there was no major resistance.
Hmm.
I mean, because I mean, literally for like 15, 20 days, I think it was, thousands of pounds of bombs being dropped, on
Mm.
Baghdad.
Right.
So,
Right.
morale was completely at a zero. I mean, they had a drone, okay, little
Hmm.
drone plane, and these were
Hmm.
like, can't talk about these,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
But now everybody's got them.
Yeah.
But they actually had Iraqis surrender to a drone.
Oh, really?
It was
Oh,
just,
wow.
yeah. I mean, I mean, of course, we'd go upstairs into the oh man, I can't even remember what they called it. It was like a command center,
Hmm.
and we'd go upstairs, and sometimes you could catch some of the videos that the Harrier
Sure.
jets pulled, and some of the like the drones pulled, and that one, I swear I've seen this one, where the
Hmm.
drone, it was flying along, and then all of a sudden you got like 10 Iraqis down there, waving a piece of white cloth.
Wow.
And, and I mean, if you're flying that drone, what do you do? It's
Right. Yeah.
come on, let's go this way.
Yeah. Well,
Drop your weapons.
huh.
Um, and back then, actually, Saddam had allegedly issued an order that they were no longer allowed to carry anything white that could be
Oh, his
considered,
soldiers.
yeah,
Oh,
considered a surrender. And I mean, it
wow.
was, yeah, it was different, and there was nothing really. I mean, I'm trying to think if there was actually any real battles. I mean, even going into Kuwait, I don't even believe there might have been some very sporadic little, resistance
Hmm.
pockets, but I mean, nothing to really even that would be above and beyond, where I was at.
Mm.
With I wasn't at the tip of the spear or anything like that.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah. So, um,
You were way back at the dull end of the spear,
yeah, I was
the
back at
dullest of ends.
the blunt end, yeah, the
The blunt
back,
end.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no,
Huh.
it's yeah, it wasn't really anything that I saw. That I mean, yeah. So I mean, there was like zero resistance. There was a guy that they when they did get up there, there was a guy captured, and he was like, "Ah, no, stop! I'm an American." You're
Mm.
like, "What?" Chicago driver's license. And he went home to go visit family, and he was drafted
Wow.
into the army at that time,
Wow.
which was very, I guess, common. Anybody and
Right.
everybody, yeah,
Right. Oh, that's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, kind of like last year, like 1944 Germany. It's like, you got a cousin,
Yep.
bring him
Yep.
over,
You're
yeah,
breathing.
yeah, let's
Stand
go.
here. Yeah.
You're 12. Here's a rifle.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Crazy
yeah,
times.
yeah. The Iraqis were, which actually was kind of like a proving ground. I do remember this. It was kind of a proving ground because the Iraqs were completely backed by Russia. So
Mm.
when I say that, they had the oh God bless, I can't even remember their tanks. Anyway,
Oh,
the
72s. Or
T-72,
yeah.
I think, yeah. So they
Or
had all
maybe
the
the 64s.
I think you were right with the 72s.
Okay.
Um, but anyway, they had all the Russian equipment, they had all the Russian this, and they practiced Russian defensive tactics.
Mm.
And I mean, we just literally decimated this. So, it was like and I guess the political climate, you could tell even Russia was like, ooh, Okay. Well, we need to rethink some things, right?
Right. Right.
Uh, but yeah, that was yeah, that was it was our testing ground against the Russians. So maybe, hopefully, that was part of one of the things that came out, that we never actually that Russia decided never to come out for war with us.
Mm, mm.
So
Sure. Sure. Huh.
um, yeah, Panama was different. I mean, of course, yeah, it was jungle warfare,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had desert warfare for those. So the strategies were completely different.
Okay.
Um, we were a lot smaller force in Panama, but in my opinion, we did more in Panama. And now I have
Mm.
heard that there's something called the Panama Papers.
Mm-hmm.
I guess like with the Afghanistan papers or something like that.
Oh,
But they're
okay. Okay.
it's that style. Um, One of the guys that he was asking me about Panama, and he said, so how do you feel about being accused of war crimes? I'm like, I didn't. I was like, what?
Mm.
And I guess there's some Panama papers that actually did outline some of the stuff that was done down there, and I guess claiming that it is war crimes. I
Mm.
personally haven't read these papers,
Sure. Sure.
but
Huh.
now when Typo was just a little lad, and he'd always ask, how did you, what did you do, did you see anything over like in the Gulf? And I'm like, nah, not really,
Mm-hmm.
burned bodies, burned out vehicles, that type of stuff. And I didn't tell him that. I mean, it was just like,
Yeah.
I was like, no, I said, I saw more in Panama than I did in Saudi,
Right. Right.
and then leave it at that,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's, yeah, it took me a while, actually getting back, and then, years afterwards. Of course, I was in prison for 26 and a half years, and, which I worked there. And yeah.
I thought I remembered that, but yeah, I was
Okay.
thinking for a second. I was like,
Well,
I'm
uh,
gonna have to ask for clarification on that.
yeah, yeah. It's like, oh shit, hit the end button.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, no, I worked down there. So I mean, I went from being in the Marine Corps, just coming out of the Gulf, and then I jumped right into going to work for a maximum security penitentiary.
Mm. Oh wow.
And
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So like people like John Wayne Gacy, I think he was our big claim to fame. I don't know if you remember him. He was
Nope.
Chicago, 33 murders. He was
Oh okay.
homosexual serial killer.
Oh okay. Wow. Yeah.
Um, got to meet him. Uh, that was one weird dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so I could get out of the Marine Corps, go directly into the prison system. So it was just the same stuff. I mean, a lot of the ideas and ideology.
Mm-hmm.
I can never say that word. Anyway, a lot of the same principles, I guess, were actually for like Marine Corps military. So the prison system
Mm-hmm.
was ran almost paramilitary. So I adapted very well into that.
Oh. Okay. Sure. I see.
And and then after I had retired, I actually ended up having some issues, I guess. So I never really could discuss, a lot of the things, of
Yeah.
course, you make up some bullshit story and tell somebody something, but you couldn't really be truthful. And,
Sure.
so I was working at a place, and, the first time really I had seen like civilian life, and I had a boss, and he lied, you know, and I still have trouble with that. Um, and it was like, are you kidding me? And his lie actually got me dismissed from this job.
Mm.
And I've never been fired, never been, anything my
Right.
entire life. So this really freaked me out. And I
Yeah.
mean, it was a steam cooker at this point, to where, things were going to happen. And my wife was actually like, why don't you go to the VA and talk to somebody? Because,
Mm.
you're having some really, and I was dreaming really bad.
Hmm.
Uh,
How long after the Gulf was this?
oh God bless. This was only like 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
so 25 years after the Gulf. I mean, this
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
boiled up, and it was because I
Hmm.
never really had been in civilian life per se, and
Oh, sure.
yeah, and it just and I still have issue with this guy. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, oh, you piece of shit. I hope you get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to the VA. Had to talk to some group therapy type stuff and some just one-on-one therapy. I try to let some things go.
Hmm.
Which I always knew I had like anger issue anyway. More or less like with like traffic. I was a road rager.
Right.
I kind of still am.
Who
Um,
doesn't to a
right,
certain extent?
right. But I mean, I would get to the point where, like, okay, say a truck cut me off, okay,
Hmm.
or did something stupid, in my opinion, and I would literally chase this guy down, you know, to that it was that point, and of course, when I started doing stuff like that, I'd call my wife and talk to her, and she would be
Hmm.
just leave it alone, blah blah blah. So now I can talk a lot more about
Right.
the stuff because I talk to these people, and there's a lot of things that you get in the military and actually in prison and stuff where you kind of like compartmentalize everything, and
Mm.
when something just doesn't trigger right, or I mean when something doesn't go right, it triggers like a
Right.
whole mess of stuff,
Sure. Sure.
and thank God, I mean, that nothing really ever became of this. I mean, recently though, I mean, I have seen my thought patterns actually changing too.
Mm.
Like, okay, for example, like with this COVID stuff,
Hmm.
you know, the government is shutting us down. They're isolating us. They're doing this and doing that. And I mean, there's been times where I'm like, me and Typo would be sitting there talking. He's like, yeah, this and this, it's wrong. And I'm like, yet nobody does anything. You know,
Mm.
nobody is doing anything. And I'm like, people are allowing like Pelosi to control God knows what.
Hmm.
We're allowing Kamala Harris to lie, Biden to sit there and lie about different stuff. I mean, blatantly lie, and nobody does anything. And I'm not talking about something crazy, but
Hmm. Sure.
nobody talks about it. Nobody really says anything, and if they do, they're labeled a Alex Jones,
Right. Right.
or they're no, they're completely dismissed.
Hmm.
And it's just like I'm so proud of the truckers for doing something, with this, Justin Trudeau and his policies and stuff
Sure.
like that. And I really hope they come down to the U.S. But, I'm like, nobody does anything. And it's like, well, we're not going to get violent. And I'm like, someday we might have to, you know,
Mm.
we might actually have to jump into this. And because the whole thing, like, okay, if somebody says no, what are you going to do to them? Okay. If you have one person says no, well, then, yeah, you just throw them in jail. Okay.
Hmm.
No big deal.
Sure. I see what you're saying.
But if 1,000 people say no, well,
Hmm.
you can't do that.
Hmm.
It's just like legalization of marijuana, Colorado.
Hmm.
One of the neighboring state of, I believe it was Nebraska, it was illegal in their state,
Hmm.
but they had to let everybody go that had marijuana because their jails were filling up so quickly that they couldn't house them anymore.
Oh, okay.
So
Sure.
they actually had to change the laws because people said, you know what, we're just going to do this.
Mm.
So I mean, it's basically a civil disobedience, is what it is.
Sure. Hmm.
And nobody does this. And I mean, now the Capitol, they got carried away on January 6th. But I think they
Hmm.
were pushed by, in my opinion, I think they were pushed by the feds.
Hmm.
I guarantee you there was people there that worked and were, hey, why don't you guys go through here? Come on, you know.
Hmm.
One of the big points, like with the Capitol too, is that Ashley Babbitt. She was shot and killed right there.
Yeah.
Nobody says anything. And you know who was standing right next to her when she got shot? A guy by the name of John Sullivan. John Sullivan is a BLM instigator, known instigator out of Utah. And he was right there. He recorded the whole thing. So, I mean, there were people there that shouldn't have been there. And, I mean, it gets kind of, yeah. And nobody wants to do anything to this security guard or agent or whatever he was. We know his name, but, I mean, it's like, oh, can't touch him. He was just doing his job. He shot this woman who had no weapon. But then they want to crucify, oh, God bless, I can't think of his name, the George Floyd cop. Man.
Derek.
Yeah. I mean, they crucified this guy, which he did wrong. So he should have got something out of it to a point. But I don't think he, but I mean, but they're not doing anything to this security agent or whatever he is, agent that shot her. And now I'm really sounding like Alex Jones. Whoa. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I see your point in that it's difficult when standards are being applied inconsistently. From whatever your viewpoint is, it can be frustrating when you see different policies being enacted by similar or the same authority structure.
Right.
And when they enforce one thing here and then another thing there, it's at best case, you're just like, wait, what? So I see what you're saying.
And okay, like for example, the Michigan, what was it? It wasn't 1%ers. It was they were going to kidnap the governor, the female governor. Out of like 13 of them, 7 were federal agents.
Right.
Yeah. So how much entrapment are we talking here? Hey, Billy, come over here. Hey, this is our plan. What do you think? Oh, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, we need guys like you to help us out, And these feds are like, just leading these people on and making it look like, well, we've got a problem, which these guys probably never would have done anything like that had it not been for federal, agitators. Same thing, like, I don't know. Yeah, we could go all day on that, but I apologize. I mean, I really went off on a tangent.
Yeah.
Back to what I said. 25 years after the Gulf, I said, I actually ended up, basically some things were actually starting to come out. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because it, at least my perception is, a guy comes back, maybe he struggles or something, and within a year or two, you see problems, whether it be, the typical vet who's homeless on the side of the road doing drugs or whatever the issue is. You expect to see it really quickly. But like you're saying, for it to be still 25 years odd later, that's quite the time frame for it to stick with you.
Yeah.
And the impact that has. I think that's important to recognize.
Of course you go in, you take a battery, a test and stuff like that. And then they list everything that's wrong with you. It's like,
right. And when they run out of paper,
right. Yeah. But I mean, I guess I got lucky in a sense, if you will, that I just went, I mean, I had like less than 2 months, I worked a little construction between time, but I mean, I had like less than 2 months, where I was in the Marine Corps basically. And then, then I was back in, a paramilitary organization anyway.
Sure.
So,
yeah. And that makes sense that would kind of extend your reaction time, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Since you're in such a similar environment.
Yep. And I mean, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't think, okay, chasing down like a trucker on the road. Looking back now, that's freaking stupid.
Right. Yeah.
So, and had I caught him, or maybe he pulled over and said, "What's up?" you know, I probably would have kept on driving, to be
Right.
honest. I mean,
Right. Oh shoot.
yeah, ooh, damn, he's big. Gotta go. But no, it's I don't know. I don't know. And I don't understand why really I did that stuff, because I mean, it's truck drivers, doing 75 and all over the road. And now I'm gonna be, the person that, takes on the responsibility of, correcting his actions,
Right. Right.
but yeah.
Well, is it like in that instance? I could see it definitely being, because a lot of people join the military to serve or
Mhm.
to defend, to protect uh, those emotions or those desires.
Right.
And I could see that, like if you're saying if someone's being dangerous on the road, I could see those being your goals still.
Yeah.
Maybe as you're saying, maybe in a misapplied manner, but if that's your desire,
Yeah.
um,
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's like a core, I guess, that has been ingrained. Core values
hmm,
been ingrained, and
sure.
and I mean, you still continue to, yeah. But yeah, there's no, sir. I'm done.
Hmm.
But man, yeah, wow. Damn it, there was something. You had just said something, and I mean, not triggered, but it brought back something. Uh,
That's
yeah,
entirely possible.
break out the guns, boys. Let's go. No, no. Yeah, it's a damn it. I just cannot
That's my
remember.
experience. It'll come to
Mm,
you
yeah, well, yeah,
about
tomorrow,
yeah,
tomorrow.
10 minutes after we stop recording.
But yeah, it's just insane. I mean, just you go from the military and then to the the prison system, and I mean, there's some shit there in the prison. Um, I actually had a guy on and that worked in Missouri prison,
Hmm.
and he actually quit and became a writer,
Mm.
because of the corruption and the things that go on inside the prison. I mean, he completely said, "I'm not doing this,"
Oh,
But
interesting. Huh.
yeah, he was really, I mean, really good guy. I mean, I need to talk to him again, but yeah,
Hmm.
some of the stuff in his prison system, we compared notes and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So
So if you were the prison guard,
Mhm.
would you said it was similar to the military, would you
Right.
compare yourself to a non NCO or an officer as a
Actually, I would,
prison guard?
as a prison guard, I would definitely. I mean, I always played enlisted,
Mm,
NCO, that type of stuff.
sure, sure.
Um, yeah, I would get on the galleries and put on the old DI voice and just
Mm,
let's
right,
go, you maggots,
right, right.
and yeah, just play. And a lot of them enjoyed that, believe it or not. I
Mm,
mean, a lot of the
okay.
convicts yeah, the inmates or whatever they're called nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
um, they enjoyed that, you know, because it wasn't a demeaning or degrading. It
Mm-hmm.
was it was hey, let's have some fun doing this stupid shit that we got to do every day.
Mm,
You know,
sure, sure.
guys would be like walking up the street. And after 1996, they changed a lot of the rules, so they had to be paired up after 1996, and they had to walk in basically formation, right?
Oh, okay.
And so I was loving that. you know, left, right, left.
Yeah.
A couple of them, expressed let's say, a negative response to that, but
Mm,
a
mm-hmm.
majority of them loved it.
Hmm.
I mean, because they, got to play, soldier, march down
Right.
the street,
Sure, sure.
and of course, I'd always throw in Monty Python shit at them, and oh, I suppose you have something better to do than march up and down the street, Yes, sir.
Did you run across any former military as
Yes. Yes.
convicts?
Yep.
And what was was the relationship different?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was very different. Actually I met a guy that was on one of the SEAL teams
Oh,
that was
really?
locked up
Wow.
in there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was scary. And
Right.
yeah. Yeah. You didn't I never really did mess with him. Of course, I mean, he was, military.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he knew about rules and he knew, hey, if I follow these rules, but he also knew that rules could be broken. And he was very good at, behind the
Sure.
scenes stuff. And
Knowing how to break them.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, his nickname was Hooch. And actually,
Hmm.
and yeah, he was, oh God, I can't remember. We talked about a little bit about his SEAL time, and it was in the 80s, late
Mm.
80s. I'm assuming, and yeah, he
Hmm.
was actually a really good guy. I mean,
Hmm.
to a point.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What
Go
you
ahead.
mentioned the VA. What was lots of vets have different experiences with the VA. What was your experience like? Good, bad, indifferent,
Initially,
helpful?
after the Gulf War in
Mm-hmm.
1992, the VA actually had a lot of information about me that kind of freaked me out. Um, But I went and seen him. This was the whole start of the Gulf War syndrome thing. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Another
yeah.
thing that we don't hear a lot about anymore.
Right, right. But it was so I went in and I mean, I hated it. I hated the
Mm-hmm.
VA because you walked in, it smelled like piss and everything
Hmm.
was like, to me, it was disorganized. It wasn't nobody gave a shit. I went in at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and before
Mm-hmm.
I even saw anybody, it was like noon. So it was just like completely disorganized, really slow. Nobody cared,
Mm.
and
Sure. Just bureaucracy at its finest.
oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it was terrible. However, I did start going back to the VA back in, it would have been about 4.5, 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I was impressed with the way they did stuff. Everything was, streamlined and very well taken care of. Matter of fact, my eye appointment today was actually a VA doctor, and
Mm.
yeah, he dilated and looked in it, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna have to do surgery tomorrow," and I'm like, "No." So yeah, they're gonna have to slice my eye open and go inside and clean some crap out, and then they're gonna take a laser
Mm.
inside my eye.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy smokes! I'm sitting there starting to get sick. It's like I was like, and I told him, I said, look, man, I said, you're gonna have to put me out. I
Right.
said, there's
Right.
there's no two ways about this. I'm
You
not
don't
gonna
want to
let
see
you
that
mess with me.
scalpel come down.
Yep, yeah. I said, yeah, and he goes, no, dude, it doesn't really hurt. I don't care. I said,
Yeah.
I know me, and if you come at my eye, I'm going to jump. And I
Yeah.
don't want you to jump when you've got a scalpel right there.
Yeah. Yep.
But no, he was really good. They're gonna put me out. So, um, yeah, the VA. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, I get my medication,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
delivered to my house. And I mean, I have no problem. Like right now, I could go up and call and say, hey, I need such and such medication, and
Mm.
it'd be at my house in like a day or two. If it's like something crucial, it'd
Sure.
be here, by tomorrow.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, actually, I was really impressed with the VA in Illinois, and
Mm.
I, I I I don't get where people say, oh, the VA sucks, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I've had some good experiences there in, let's say, the last 5 years, and good
Yeah.
doctors, and the only thing, okay, now the only issue I've had, okay, is my hand, my left hand. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you can see this, but that is max how I can open it up.
Oh. Oh. You can't fully
Yeah,
extend your pinky.
I
Huh.
can't, the pinky or the ring finger. I can't.
Huh.
And I mean, I've got knots all through my palm, and I did go there to a hand specialist.
Mm-hmm.
They injected my hand full of some sort of enzyme.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay. And they said, come back tomorrow, and then we're going to stretch out your hand. Okay. So I did. My hand swelled up big, and I'm like, holy crap. So I go there next day. He starts pulling on it, and I could feel the knots busting apart. And I mean, it was a gut wrenching feeling.
Mm.
And of course, it went right back to where it is. So
Huh.
I'm not really happy with him. But, yeah. But yeah, I mean, VA, yeah, I'm gonna say my VA is thumbs up. And I've talked to a
Okay.
lot of guys in group and stuff like that. They seem to be relatively happy with it,
Mm-hmm.
as some of the other vets and stuff like that. I mean, and you get in like a group session, and there's like Vietnam and, of course, Gulf and of course a lot of like Afghanistan and, even Somalia vets. We've had some Somalia vets in there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, they all seem to like it as far as I can tell. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, nobody's bitched about, even the food's pretty decent there. So yeah. But and my grandfather was World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And he loved the VA. He absolutely, yeah,
Hmm.
wouldn't go to a regular doctor. So, and I'm trying to think where he actually went to the VA at. My dad was in VA, but he was going to Evansville, Indiana, and Danville, Illinois, I think was where that was at. Yeah, but he was diagnosed with all kinds of cancers from Agent Orange, so they were sending him to a lot of different places, and he went to
Oh,
group
yeah.
therapy too. He was Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
and he had some issues too. So, but he was good at like keeping it all quiet. Yeah,
Yeah.
me and Typo were actually talking. That's probably been 6 months ago. But literally every war that the United States has actually been in, we've had a family member there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know that
Wow.
sounds so Lieutenant Dan,
Right. Right.
right? But yeah, actually, in the American Revolution War, now my wife, her family was there.
Mm.
And so she is actually like a daughter of the Revolution.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
and of course my daughter would be too. But now on my side of the family, we are Hessians
Mm-hmm.
that came across to fight they were mercenaries to fight with the British.
Mm.
So when I say, yeah, every war the United States fought in, well,
Your
we fought.
ancestors were there, and that's all you want to
Yeah,
say.
yeah. They were in the Revolution, yeah. But
They weren't in the picture of Washington crossing the Delaware. Let's put it that way.
There you go.
But they were at the battle.
That's right. That's good. That's good.
Oh.
But yeah, it's I mean, it's so that's something we talked about. I mean, it's every genealogy and everything like that. That was pretty cool. Learning about that. With and actually, my wife, get this, is a direct descendant from George Washington. Well, not direct. I take that back. George Washington's aunt is who she's actually related to. And I can't remember the name, honestly, but yeah, she did the DNA swab, and it was coming back with like, okay, she's also related to Samuel Clemens.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah. And I'm like, I've got like nobody famous in my life. That's
right.
Really?
You just got all the grunts in your
line. Yeah, we got the grunts.
The sloggers in the trenches.
Yeah, it's man. Yeah, so yeah, she's got the fame. We got the mud. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. My God. But yeah, it's the VA, definite plus. I mean, like I said, it's good. Like I said, my grandfather, he was World War II. Actually, he was one of the first. Well, he was a Marine Corps aviator, which they were all naval aviators. But he said the way they worked it was that you got to choose. whether you want to be Navy or Marine Corps. And he's like, oh, I'm going to be Marine Corps. He flew P-51 Mustangs Pacific and, during World War II.
Yeah.
And he also flew with man, I can never remember the guy's name now. Some famous baseball player. He was actually in a unit with him at one point in time.
Sure.
So, but yeah, then my dad was 82nd Airborne, and of course then he was, I guess, transferred. I guess for lack of a better word, Green Beret, and so he was actually 82nd and Special Forces. And I tell you what, his funeral, man, that was a lot of people came out of the woodwork on there. A lot of people. It was like, really? I mean, yeah.
So what did he think when you joined the Marines instead of the Army?
That's a good one. That's a good question.
Did that get the dinner table going?
Yeah, I did actually. I was 17, and I mean, I knew I wasn't going to go to college. We couldn't afford, going to college.
Yeah.
And, of course, Marine Corps recruiters like, you do your time and, you get college for free. And,
right.
So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Of course, then I wanted the guts and the glory and, and all that and
right.
Stupid kid shit. And, so anyway, so I went and told my dad, I said, hey, let's see, I was born October 20 and November 2nd. Between October 20th and November 2nd, I talked to my dad and said, hey, I'm signing up, but you have to sign for me. And he's like, Marine Corps, really? Yeah, absolutely not. And so we discussed it. And I mean, he actually came around and was like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I left, I early graduated out of high school and left for boot camp, 2 months later. So,
wow.
And then, then my dad's joke was I raised 3 boys. They all went in the Marine Corps. They all ended up in prison, So we all 3, right. All 3 worked at prisons. So different ones, but he always thought he was funny. So
yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I could get him going. Yeah, we all may have ended up in prison, but at least we're not deadbeat cops, And, oh man, I don't know. You probably won't remember this. There was a TV show. It was called T.J. Hooker.
Okay. Nope.
Okay.
Outside of my time zone.
I hear you. Yeah. All you whippersnappers. No. Anyway, it was played by William Shatner. Okay. And this was years after Star Trek, and it was probably early 80s at best. And I think even Heather Locklear played in it, maybe. But anyway, we're all laying there, and of course the theme song for TJ Hooker comes on, and it's like, I'm there and I'm like, oh look, it's another fat cop with a badge. Woo! It was on. Yeah. Yeah.
Chip started flying, followed closely by fists.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, and my dad, used a lot of like different military tactics and, growing up with us, and yeah. And I tell you what, I came home for leave one time, and so he was talking smack, and I was like, listen, old man, I said, you want to go? And of course let's go. I actually got to put him down, greatest moment of my life, it's like, yeah, of course he's like, oh my back,
right.
Oh yeah, use that in as an excuse, right? Yeah, but yeah, no, it was good times there. Yeah, I remember. Oh my God, we were actually handcuffed to beds. Yeah, one arm to the bed, because we were acting stupid,
Oh yeah,
being goofy.
3 boys, good grief,
right? Yeah,
you gotta do what you got to do.
Yeah, so I remember being handcuffed to the bed and given Huckleberry Finn book.
Right.
Read. Yeah, no TV, read. It's like, really? Okay. Can I get the handcuff off so I can turn the page? Nope.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what we broke something. horse playing. And
Sure.
yeah, so that was, of course I tell that story now, and all the bleeding hearts are like, that's child abuse, and not really.
No one told us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not really. It was a good time. So, but yeah. So how am I doing? We're not doing too bad. We started 2, so yeah, we're at an hour and a half. Holy smokes!
Yeah,
And you got sorry about all the stupid stories I've been telling you.
No problem.
You can edit those out. Yeah, that's Alex Jones.
You kind of reference it, but what's your what you got to plug?
Oh shoot, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I do a podcast, and it is called The Unbeaten Path by Craig with a K, and that is like a hidden joke right there. So yeah, originally it was spelled with a C, but because of typo, being my kid, I had to intentionally make a typo.
Nice,
Right?
A nice one.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So actually, he's the one that actually got me into doing shows and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, heck yeah, if you check out my podcast, I've done interviewed St. Louis president chapter of the Proud Boys. That was really cool. Interviewed a buddy of mine from the Gulf, and yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff, and he kind of went off grid a little bit. I mean, not completely, but yeah, we talked to him. We talked a little bit about the Gulf stuff and post Gulf. Let's say I interviewed online sex worker, governor candidates, Illinois senator. I've had some really, in my opinion, interesting people. So
yeah, and just a real variety.
Yeah. It's just you can follow me on Twitter at or path_unbeaten is what I go by. Yeah.
Was Unbeaten Path taken?
Yes, of course. Of course.
It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah. You're not even using it, So,
yeah.
It's all taken, and I have no idea why I even came up with that name. I mean, typos. I had a crushed arch and had my foot rebuilt, and so I was actually kind of just like in a chair, lounge chair. And, he's like, man, I'll try podcasts. I was like, man, I don't want to talk.
Right.
Now I love it. Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I started that and actually started a travel agency, and I still do that. And I teach classes now. And yeah, so, but yeah, it's, let's see. Yeah. Craig Brockhouse on Facebook. They can follow me at, and The Unbeaten Path on Facebook, Dragonfly Vacations, and yeah, I mean, it's all cool.
Yeah, I listened to your podcast. I'm impressed by how you'll have interviews, and then also you'll just do a solo, a little shorter, but just you talking, and to switch between the two formats I'm impressed.
No, I hate talking by myself.
I couldn't do it. I ramble, and it's just like I need somebody to do most of the talking, and I just ask dumb questions. It's easier.
I have seriously thought about deleting some of my first episodes, where I was actually by myself. And
right.
Yeah. And of course, Typo's like, no, you got to leave them on there. You got to leave them. That way people can make fun of you. It's like, okay.
Thanks, kid.
Yeah. And I did a stupid one. The worst one I think I've truly ever did. I did a joke thing with Major Biden. It was the dog.
Right.
So
okay.
I had a dog barking in the background, and it was an editing nightmare, by the way.
I bet.
Yeah, so I would ask a question or like talk, and then I would have to come back in with a different voice, and I had to change pitch and tempo and all this stuff, and it was like, this sucks. And I mean, it was like literally 3 hours work for 15 minutes. It was like and then, of course, now I'm not going to say, here's a couple things. I'm not saying Joe Rogan follows me, but the dog interview, Joe Rogan did a dog interview with his dog.
Oh, really? That's
after mine.
Right.
And now I don't know if this was Joe Rogan or if it was Tim Pool but somebody just had the president, and I can't think of the guy's name, of the St. Louis, or of the Proud Boys. And I'm like,
Oh,
yeah, oh, you got a famous name. And so you just go right to the top,
right, right,
so I'm not saying they listen to my podcast, but I mean, it's awful coincidental. They do
right,
follow my
right.
same genre, I guess. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And okay, now you do your podcast and it's awesome. So do you find, okay, like when Bruce Springsteen and Obama did a podcast, I mean, it was like an instant hit because of their notoriety or their fame.
Oh, yeah, I heard
You
about
know,
that.
and yeah, I mean, I've never listened to it. Okay. And of course,
Mm.
my wife used to watch a lot of Dr. Phil. So when I was
Mhm.
crippled up, I had to watch a lot of Dr. Phil. And, but, that really pissed me off because his wife now and Dr. Phil both do separate podcasts and they're like huge,
Mm.
because they're famous already.
Sure.
It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
holy smokes,
Yep.
I've got like 7 listeners, it's like,
Right. And half of
yeah,
them I have to pay.
right.
Yeah.
And one of them, now I did lose a listener last December. Yeah. So my mother passed away and,
Mm.
so I lost a listener. So I'm down to 6 now. So damn it. Thanks, Mom. Yeah.
Oh. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it does really kind of get me, when all these like uber famous people are like, I'm going to do a podcast, and
Right.
then you got like 6 million followers, it's like, that sucks, yeah.
But
So,
but on the flip side, none of those the people listen to that show are just going to be able to listen. Whereas
right.
people listen to your show, they could email you
Oh,
and you'd reply.
heck yeah.
There's more, so it's kind of a balance. There's more opportunity for a real connection.
Okay.
With having a smaller show.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of that. Now, what is your go-to podcast? I mean, now I know, Jay's.
There's this couple of retards that run this one called Biting the Bullet. I don't know if you've
Oh,
heard of it.
heck. Oh, I can't stand that one.
Yeah, those
are
guys are
idiots.
crazy. Yeah. Knuckleheads.
Yeah. Yeah, I that is one of my little guilty pleasures is to sit there and listen to. But I also report to Typo's mom. So when stuff comes out, I'm like, oh, you got to hear this podcast. Yeah. Matter of fact, hell, he should be here. Matter of fact, he might be bouncing down the stairs here pretty soon, or he may just stay upstairs because he knows, I'm down here doing a podcast. But
yeah,
I mean, and I do like Cars, Timeline Earth.
Oh yeah,
I think Cars is the Signal,
mm-hmm.
and I like listening to them. I think really, what is some of the other ones that I really go to? I'd like Voluntary Vixens. I know they're.
Oh, I've heard of them.
Yeah, well, they, I guess, they were on my podcast. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. I was thinking, they kill me. They crack me up. Now they sit around. They'll sit around and drink, during it. And it's like, by the end of the podcast, you can tell, that they've really been hit. Yeah. And they're really nice. And the problem with the Voluntary Vixens for me is they're just too smart and I feel intimidated.
Oh, sure. Yeah. You're like, hang on, I need a dictionary.
Yeah. And they have phenomenal guests on theirs too. Like doctors and, I had, I think, Mark, it's Dr. Mark Changizi. Is that right?
Okay.
He was on there and so I'm like, cool. So I was like, I'm just going to try to get him. He said, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, ooh. So we talked, I mean, he talked way up here, I'm like, okay. But, he had some really cool stuff. He was talking about like origins of languages and, different stuff. And I mean, of course we really bashed the COVID thing and, he is 100% adamant about being anti-COVID, you know,
Hmm.
and he's got a YouTube thing. And I want to even say that he was on, well, I want to say Joe Rogan, but I don't think so. But he, one of those other people who's you got Mike Quiones and I can't think of the other ones, but yeah, he was on somebody's podcast. It was
Yeah.
like, super popular. And I do like, every once in a while, I do like Dan Bonagino. I like his podcast because he's just a freaking nut.
Okay.
And I mean, he's just, I mean, some of the stuff he says just cracks me up. Joe Rogan, I do listen to on occasion, but because he listens to me. And so it's just
turnabout's fair play.
Turnabout, right. And so other than that, I mean, it's just there's a few out there I've listened to. There's some bad podcasts out there too. Oh my gosh, you ever try to just search for podcasts? Wow, yeah, and it's like, oh, okay. I mean, it just sounds like they're sitting around smoking weed and. It's like no point, which, hey, if you got weed, cool. That's great. If I were to smoke weed on a podcast, it'd be 15 minutes and I'd be snoring, I mean,
right.
Yeah. I smoked back in the 80s, before I joined the Marine Corps. And then of course, working for the state of Illinois, I never really could. And because I was afraid I was going to get dropped. And, so anyway, I get out and then they legalize it. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to go to the dispensary and get some good stuff, be like back in the 80s. No, this stuff is wicked powerful. I mean, it's like, of course I had a blunt or a pre-roll and, I'm sitting there, I'm hitting it and I'm like, okay, this ain't shit. I'm like, what the hell? I just paid like $20 for this thing, and and next thing I know, I'm on the floor. 5 straight hours. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was, I mean, I couldn't move. I'm thinking I'm having a heart attack or a stroke. And, I'm sitting in my chair and I'm like, oh God, I can't even reach my phone. I ended up falling out of the chair, literally, and I'm on my hands and knees. And of course, my dog's licking my face and everything. And I'm like, oh, here it comes. I end up getting sick, and then as I'm getting sick, the dog is like, cleaning it up. Yeah. And then I'm puking on her and oh my God, worst time ever. But so I have learned to restrict a little bit, not get the the tough stuff. So I'm just a rookie. But other than that, yeah. And you really, seriously, you listen to Biting the Bullet? I mean, for real?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they're one of the major inspirations for this show.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I really appreciate what they do. So,
well, you get people like, hey, I'd like you to come on the podcast, and you're like, okay, but like, of course I ask Typo all the time, who's such and such, and he's like, I don't know, but I ask him he goes, no, he's straight, man. Yeah.
he's weird, but
yeah,
he's
no,
okay.
No, he said, no, he was actually, yeah, you got good marks on him, or from him, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. And I apologize. I mean, heck, I think I was looking at the dates on the email. It was like December something.
Oh yeah.
No, originals.
No problem. I've really relaxed. I try to record several episodes in one go, and then I just do all the editing and then upload them, and then I don't have to worry about it for a month or two. So
I hear you. That's cool.
There's several people that I contact, and then if they don't get back to me right away, it's out there, and I wait for it to come back. So it's not not urgent.
I tell you what, man, I appreciate you having me on your show, man. This has been awesome and enjoyed it. Thank you for getting me to, talk about this too. I mean,
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't think I've really even talked about, some of the things we talked about on here. I mean, there are some things I know I didn't talk about, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not really sure if I'm,
Right.
supposed to, right? Yeah, I don't know. So it might get a little, yeah, I don't want it to get you swatted or anything. Oh, that would be terrible. Or me get
Right.
swatted.
Right.
That'd even be worse, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Get typo swatted.
I think a lot of people don't realize how valuable it is when a vet is willing to talk.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
yeah, and I mean, it was, and to be honest, it was really easy talking on this. I
yeah,
mean, maybe a lot to do with like the you know
the doofus face you're looking at.
no 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 like okay like because I kind of had a little bit of an idea of what we're going to talk about, so I could mentally kind of prepare a little
Right.
bit,
Right.
and so that probably helped out a lot right there.
Thank you for listening to this episode of How I Embraced the Suck. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend. And as my Girl Scout den mother used to say, stay frosty.
Yeah, my grandfather was at Iwo Jima, and he always told us as kids that he was a cook in the Navy, and I'm like, you're a cook, really, no cool stories there, huh? So come to find out, he was a flamethrower.